After the hard fight between Saitama and Omni-Man, the Viltrumite ended up on the ground defeated, reflecting on his actions when confronted by his son, feeling so much guilt for what he had done that he decided to leave the planet, leaving behind everything he knew. Now that the situation had calmed down, Saitama decided to tell Invincible the little he knew about how he arrived in that place so that he could clear up his doubts. However, Invincible was left bewildered upon hearing the details of his fight against Boros. Of course, he didn't doubt Saitama's strength, but imagining a battle of that scale was surprising to him. So, you're saying you were fighting an alien who conquers worlds, and then you ended up here when the fight ended? Yeah, it sounds crazy, right? I'd be lying if I told you it doesn't, but with all the things that happen here, it's not that hard for me to believe. Invincible stayed thinking for a bit about what Saitama had told him, trying to make sense of his story. But if what you're saying is true, something doesn't add up. A spaceship like the one you described has never been recorded. And believe me, if an invader with that level of power had showed up, Cecil's agency and the rest of the heroes would have known immediately. We would have received alerts or emergency transmissions. Saitama looked at him confused, scratching the back of his neck as he raised an eyebrow. Really? Because that ship was gigantic. So big it covered the whole sky. It launched bombs that completely destroyed the city. There wasn't a single building left standing, and now you're telling me no one saw anything, and nobody heard about Boros or his army either. That's very weird. Saitama kept thinking about the glow that appeared during his final exchange with Boros. Realizing it wasn't a simple coincidence, he'd been transported to some place that wasn't his home. Damn, I think I finally opened my eyes. I'm trapped in another world. It looks that way, but I don't think it would be the first time someone from another universe shows up here, although most of the time they don't live to tell about it. Then that would explain why everything looks so different. Even the cities are unlike the ones I know. It makes sense it would be like that. After all, we're still on planet Earth, just not the one you know. Here, things are more complicated. There are heroes, aliens, secret agencies, almost everything. My father was one of those who helped protect the planet, or at least that's what I believed. Where I come from, there are also many heroes who are run by an agency. At least we have that in common. After that comment, Saitama fell silent for a few seconds, watching the kid closely and noticing that his gaze grew more serious every time he mentioned his father. Now that you mention it, during your talk you mentioned a group called the Guardians of the Globe? Who exactly are they? They don't ring a bell to me at all. Invincible looked away when he heard that question, but he decided to answer anyway. The Guardians of the Globe were the most important hero group on this planet. They were the strongest, the ones who handled global threats and kept the balance when everything else failed. On their team they had Red Rush. He was so fast he could move between bullets. War Woman, she was strong enough to stop a car with one hand. They also had Darkwing, a vigilante who operated from the shadows and used advanced technology. Green Ghost, Martian Man, all of them worked together. They were the best. Saitama nodded slowly, listening with interest as Mark spoke in a tone loaded with respect. Sounds like a good team of heroes. You can tell they were dedicated. They must have saved a lot of lives. Mark lowered his gaze, his voice cracking a little as he went on. Yeah, they did. Until my father killed them all in a single night. Saitama fell silent, not knowing what to say for a few seconds, and he just nodded, showing a more serious expression than usual. I see. So that's why the helicopters were attacking your father, and you were trying to understand why he did it. Exactly. He always talked to me about protecting the planet, about helping others, and suddenly, everything changed. He said he did it because the Guardians were an obstacle, that the world needed to be conquered to become stronger for his empire, and that humans were destined to fail. I wish it were a bad dream, but I know it isn't. Saitama crossed his arms as he watched Invincible, feeling a bit of pity for what he was going through. I suppose every world has its own kind of disaster. In mine, monsters appear for no reason, and heroes fight without rest. But in the end, what matters isn't just strength, it's what you do with it. Your father seems to have forgotten that. Invincible looked up at him, watching with curiosity. And you? If you say you're a hero for fun, what makes you different from him? Saitama paused to think, looking up at the sky. I suppose the difference lies in why I do it. I don't fight to prove I'm strong, or to conquer, or to control anything. I just do it because I like to fight, and feel I can do something useful. Even if I sometimes feel empty, I keep helping people because if I don't do it, then who will? Upon hearing those words, Mark let go of his serious expression and smiled, recognizing Saitama's heroism and better understanding the way he thought, which made him empathize with him. That sounds more heroic than you think, Saitama. Now I get that you do it simply because you want to, without expecting anything. And that is something this world really needs. Saitama showed a faint smile upon hearing that comment from him. I'm glad to hear it. I suppose there's always time to do the right thing, even if you don't get paid for it. They both stayed silent for a few seconds as they looked at the horizon where the sun's rays began filtering through the clouds and started illuminating the devastated field. Well, if you're going to stay here a while, I think you could come with me. I've got several friends who could help you understand this world, and if you really are that strong, you could teach me a thing or two, because after all this, I know I'm going to need to get better. Saitama lowered his gaze for a few seconds upon hearing Invincible's proposal, thinking about whether it was a good idea to accept training him. Teach you? I'm not sure I'm a good teacher. Besides, I already have a student. His name is Genos, and he's an insistent but very dedicated kid, although he sometimes goes overboard with being my disciple, and, well, let's just say I'm not exactly the type to give big motivational speeches. I can barely answer him when he starts asking questions about everything I do. Invincible looked at him with a slight smile, noticing the resigned tone in his voice. Sounds like he cares about you. I'm sure you teach him more than you think. I don't know. He says he wants to reach my level, but I don't even really understand how I got this strong. I just trained and ate well. It's not that complicated. But if you say you need to improve, I suppose I can try to help you. Besides, I don't have anywhere to stay, and it doesn't look like there's a Heroes Association here where I can register or anything. Well, there isn't an agency as such, but I should introduce you to the rest. I guess that would be best. Invincible smiled enthusiastically, though he still looked somewhat exhausted by everything that had happened. Then it's decided. I'll take you with me. I want you to meet the one who leads most of the heroes. His name is Cecil. He handles almost everything related to the planet's defense. If anyone can help you understand this world, it's him. Although he can be complicated to deal with. Cecil, huh? Sounds like the kind of person who gives a lot of orders. You're not wrong. But he usually has good intentions, even if you don't always like how he acts. If he sees you as an ally, he'll surely give you a place to stay and some support. Well, I don't have anything better to do, so I accept. Besides, it would be good to learn more about this place. Maybe I'll find a way to get back home someday. Invincible nodded with a sincere smile, feeling a bit of relief having someone like him by his side, even though he still didn't know how powerful he really was. I'm glad to hear it. By the way, I don't think I've told you my name yet. I'm Mark Grayson, but you can also call me Invincible. That's how people know me here. Saitama raised an eyebrow when he heard it. Invincible? Quite a name. It sounds like someone who never loses. Mark chuckled a little with a hint of irony. I wish it were true. The truth is, I've lost more times than I'd like, but I always try to get back up, even if people think I'm crazy. Saitama smiled slightly at his attitude. That's a good attitude. It reminds me a lot of how Genos thinks. Even though he always ends up destroyed in every fight, he finds a way to keep going. I suppose you guys have more energy than I do. If someone that persistent follows you like that, you must have something that impresses him. That's why I'd like to see you in action more. We'll see. Though don't expect anything spectacular. My routine isn't anything out of this world. Invincible just looked at him with curiosity while he took off into the air to get ready to head to the base, but he realized that Saitama was starting to follow him on foot. Cecil's base is a bit far. We can get there fast if we fly. Why don't you do it? Saitama stopped and looked at him with his usual neutral expression. Fly? Oh no, I can't do that. Mark blinked in confusion, thinking he'd misheard. What do you mean you can't fly? But you have a cape. I thought all heroes with capes flew. Saitama looked over his shoulder, lifting one edge of the cape with his fingers. The cape? No, it's just for aesthetics. It looks good when I walk or when there's wind, but there's no flying. If I want to get somewhere, I have to jump really high. Although it's not very comfortable, I sometimes land in the wrong places. Invincible looked at him with a mix of surprise and stifled laughter. I can't believe it. With everything you did during the fight, I thought you'd be able to fly without any problem. Nah, but I've gotten used to it anyway. Besides, walking also works to warm up a bit. Mark smiled, amused, still unable to process that someone so powerful couldn't fly. But seeing Saitama's calm expression, he understood he really meant it, so he simply nodded and began to propel himself slowly. Alright, then just follow me. The base is on the other side of the city, a few kilometers away. Saitama nodded and adjusted his gloves, starting to run at a relaxed pace while gradually increasing his speed to follow him. Invincible looked down, seeing how Saitama followed him effortlessly, moving at such an absurd speed that it looked like he was gliding over the ground instead of running. No way, he's going the same speed as me, and he's not even flying. During the trip, Saitama took the opportunity to get a better look at the city and its surroundings, realizing it was quite a pleasant place. After a while, they both ended up arriving at Cecil's base, so the two of them stopped in front of the entrance. Phew, good warm-up. I think I needed a bit of running. Invincible descended slowly from the air while watching Saitama stop without showing a single drop of fatigue after all the distance he had covered. I can't believe you covered the whole way on foot. You don't even look tired. It's impressive. I guess I'm used to it, although I have to admit it would be more comfortable if I could fly, but, well, running works too. Mark laughed a little, shaking his head as they walked toward the large metal doors of the underground base. When they arrived, several sensors scanned Invincible's presence, opening slowly with a mechanical sound. Inside, a corridor lit with blue lights stretched deep inside, full of screens, guards, and scientists moving back and forth. Saitama looked around the place with curiosity, taking in every detail.